that's a good segue. Flo was saying how she's interested to know your journey. So I know your journey, of course. Where do we want to start? Flo, where do you want to start?
Well, honestly, I've got the interview stuff up that we talked about, the prep stuff that we talked about. And I really do think it's just, how did the whole thing start? At what point in your relationship did you guys decide, oh, we have to have a baby? Like it's time for us to start our family.
That's a good idea. Well, before you say that, part of one thing I love about when you have your articles, and we'll have that up on the website and the podcast site, is that you shared even the reality that that you got married, and not just getting married, but then having a family. Right. So can we start with that then too? Like even just like how long you were married and then you decided to have a baby.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to start because, what comes to mind for me is 2015 and gay marriage was legalized in the United States that year. And for us, we got married in 2015. And it was cementing our place in America in some ways. It allowed us the freedom to think more broadly about what we wanted to do with our life and our legacy, right? And so Jeff and I met in 2011 in New York City. Jeff had been working there for several years, and I had moved there for the second time to start a job. That's where it all started, and we got engaged a couple years later. And again, like when we had the opportunity to get married and plan for our marriage, and the big day came, it really allowed us to think, okay, what's next? I think for both of us, family is so important, and we had so much love to give. We have 2 dogs. We are very active in the community, whether it be church or Filipino American communities. We're very family oriented, and I think we had that. I think that kind of that's where the discussion really started.
Yeah, and then I think things kind of got. About a year later, we moved into our house. And so we're like, okay, well, now we have a house, a physical home, but what does really home mean? Then, it was like a crossroads. Like, we thought about, can we start thinking about building a family, like having a child. And after a year of just being married, what really does home mean? And it really is about family. And I think for us, we at that point, we felt like, okay, well, maybe we should look into it seriously. At that point, how to build a family, you can go through many routes. And certainly we wanted to approach it very thoughtfully. We have, couples that, like they do fostering and adopting and then surrogacy, like all these different options, of course, biologically, neither of us can birth a child. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Things are happening. Wait till the next other podcast we have. Yeah.
So,
so then when you saw each other, when you looked at each other, you're like, oh, this is how we want to go. Like what made you decide this is the route we want to go? Creating your family.
Yeah, it was a lot of research, and probably a year of just discussion, meeting other families, going to info sessions. We looked at everything under the sun, foster to adopt, private adoption, international adoption, surrogacy.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and we're trying to figure out. There's a balance of a number of components from, what's most important to you, and how you want to build your family, obviously, but then there's, a financial component, and there's a time component, and there's a resource component of how many people you need to get involved, and each one of those routes, there's a different set of factors you need to consider. And so I think for us, when we weighed everything out, the path of surrogacy spoke.
Was surrogacy the right decision for you guys because of the biological component? Because the baby would be biologically related to one of you, and was that one of the deciding factors?
I think that was one of the factors we considered. We did explore all the different ways of growing our family. We weighed the pros and cons of each one. I think, with surrogacy, I think that was one of the factors we considered, the biological connection. I think, growing up, I felt that, I always wanted to be a dad. And, it was important, for my parents, to have a grandchild. And, I never really thought that it would be possible, growing up in the Philippines, and, getting married and starting a family was just not something that I thought it would be possible most of my life, until, coming to America and meeting Mark, and, through our journey, that, this dream was realized. But it wasn't the end all and be all of the decision. I think, we just thought that, weighing all the pros and cons, that surrogacy was just the right path for us.
Yeah, and I would add to that, when we talk about being biologically connected to the child in the traditional sense, I don't think that was, I think it's important in surrogacy, and especially as a same-sex couple, to be able to define what that means in the reality of having a child. And so, I think, we are saying that being biologically connected to the child was a factor, but not because we wanted the same blood flowing in our veins, more so because things like the legalities when you have a biological child allow you to have instant rights to the child, right?
Yeah.
And so, as many people know, if you go down foster to adoption, there's always a possibility that the child will be reunited with the birth mom. And there's also the idea of potentially traveling from state to state or country to country. And if you are not biologically connected to a child, there's some
wow.
As a couple, there's some grayness, right?
Yeah.
And so when, in talking with legal teams, which we have to do in the surrogacy process, the biological.
That is amazing for our listeners to learn about, and our viewers. Even I just learned that. That's something I never thought about. And this is actually I'm probably going to bring it up occasionally, is why we created delivery diaries, is so that people can learn from each other and understand where other families are coming from, or where other people are coming from when they want to make a family. So thanks for sharing that part. And they froze a little, so I'll pause on what I'm saying. But everything else was clear. Let me see if they'll come back on. I can kind of tell when they drop off and then when they're just frozen. Can you?
Yeah. I think this might be a drop off moment.
Yeah. Did you know about the legal part?
I did.
Wow.
I actually did. Because marriage and family law is ancient.
We're still recording.
Yeah.
The legality of it is, I mean, Flo says she knew about that. I didn't know. And thanks for sharing that, because that's a lot of people are going to learn about that want to dive into this part of, either surrogacy or having a biological child. I would say.
So, all right, I have another surrogate question. Can I ask another surrogate question?
Sure.
Yeah, shoot. And you know what? Part of this too is we're learning. I know I'm learning. Flo's learning. And we say we're not the experts. Okay, Flo and I are the experts of giving birth to our own babies, but we are not the experts at anyone else's experience. And that's why it's very gracious of you guys to share and have us even language and lingo, like things that I don't even know how to say it. Because I'm your friend, and I would be like, "So, whose sperm did you decide to have?"
Yeah.
but anyway, but how you say is, who decided to be the biological parent?
Yeah.
I don't know. Either one works as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, go ahead, Flo. Yeah.
No, but the surrogacy piece of it, right? Because you brought up the legality part of it, and there are some places in the world I know that you actually the surrogate has to sign off because the surrogate may not be. Was your surrogate also the biological mother, or was it? See,
you did IVF, right?
So it literally took, So
I learned that too.
IVF with a donor egg.
I know.
That's crazy. So we like to say, and we're preparing what the conversation with Margo is going to look like, right? As she gets older and wants to know how she came about and how we grew our family. But one of the things that I picked up on while we were doing our research and talking to different couples is that, you know, the way I think about it is there are people that help make the baby in our situation. There are people that helped make Margo, and then there are people that raise Margo, right? The team that's needed to make Margo is a sperm donor, and then we have an egg donor, and then we have a surrogate who carries the baby. And when you go through surrogacy, again, kind of going back to the legality of it, it is a cleaner relationship, if you will. It's more black and white because the egg donor, or let me say it this way, the surrogate is not biologically connected to the child that she's carrying. And so there's no gray area should the surrogate get cold feet midway through, or, you know, she wants to make a decision on the baby that she's carrying. Those rights continue to stay directly with the intended. Because also what California has done, and also, you know, states like Oregon, I mean, we have to keep in mind too that the approach that we're taking is very specific to the state that we live in here in the US. Like, this is not allowed in all states across America, what we're doing, right? But this approach of having like the team of 3 to help make our baby, the egg donor is providing a service, and there is a transaction agreement, which she gets compensated for providing us with her eggs. But in making it black and white like that, she relinquishes her legal connection to the DNA she's providing, right? And so everything is kind of set up within a contract and agreement. And then what ultimately kind of is the, I guess the main, the connection that supersedes everything is the intended parents that enter this process, which is us. And so
got it.
We are the names on the birth certificate. We are, you know, if anything were to happen, we legally have 100% decision-making rights over Mark.
Yeah. And I think with California, it's, you know, we're lucky in the sense that the process is very sort of like airtight, like, you know, like, because there's a lot of legal protections for the intended parents. So there's a legal contract pertaining to the egg donor, like Mark said. We have a legal contract also with our surrogate pertaining to, like, you know, she does not claim any parental rights to our child. There's a provision in the contract. And then before Margo was born, we have to go in front of a judge for a pre-birth order. The judge essentially signs off and finalizes that parental rights are shared between Mark and I for our child.
Mm-hmm.
No other person essentially can claim parental rights over our child. So I think we went down that route just for the security of, as Margo grows up, there won't be any legal sort of like challenges or questions about our rights.
I got teary-eyed when Mark was saying Margo, there's people that raised you, and then there's people helped. Yeah, because I know her.
Yeah.
And just knowing that she was made out of so much love.
Yeah.
She was, yeah. We wanted.
It's so intentional. It's just like
right. Well, that's the thing, right? Like this is the most intentional human creation you could possibly have in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
heterosexual fertile couples, like it's like that's
been there, done that.
Yeah.
that's the easiest. That's the most straightforward way, right?
Yeah.
But it's also like that's the thing, right? You created a family with a very serious financial investment.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
Hello, you're in with the segues. Another segue.
That's what I do. So the serious financial investment, the serious emotional investment, the research
conversation is very as real can get. Like the
Right.
financial. Well, that's a good segue. If you want to go into that too. After
well, it's just all of the things that you guys had to do that a heterosexual couple doesn't even think about,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You think about it after usually the baby comes. Oh, we gotta pay for this and this.
Right, but again, it's also like you didn't have to pay to create the baby, Brandy.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
That's the
Like,
thing.
there's no
Yeah,
financial conversation going on.
Right.
Not, as to extent of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which is what I'm.
Right. It literally cost me a $500 copay to have my baby. Right.
I thought you were going to say it cost you how much to make the baby?
No, $500 cobate to have a baby.
Procreate was like $0.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the piece of it that I think is a good education for people. I mean, and your financial story has been covered a couple of times by GMA and what was the other? I can't
Business
remember.
Insider.
Article. Business Insider. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like if people want to read about that part of the journey, like they can go read about it. I mean, I think it's interesting the absolute methodical approach you guys took was pretty awesome. Like we're going to make sure we can afford this payment. Right. And that's pretty awesome. I mean, and that's just smart financial behavior and no matter what, right? Like just in general, not even just surrounding having a baby.
And I think like other, when we're approached by other couples who are thinking about doing, like the surrogacy journey, we're very transparent.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Financial
That's great.
Involved. And, they ask us sort of like ballpark figure and the logistics and, more than happy to walk them through, because initially I think that was one of the sort of like barriers to pull the trigger to start the process, because can we afford this? Can we actually finish this journey without going, financially under? And
well, can you share that there's actual loans? Because again, our listeners and our viewers are going to want to be like, this is a part of this is like what people don't tell you. Like what you don't read in the books or what you just don't hear out in the society.
Right.
Like there's like loans. I'm just looking at a loan for a house. Y'all looking for a loan for a baby. So it's just like, how do we keep that conversation, just normalize it? Does that make sense?
Right.
Like,
so when we started the journey, again, like Mark said, we didn't go into it like blindly. So we have friends who've gone through the process. We have some idea of like more or less what it will take financially. And we took a look at our finances. I mean, some couples are lucky, like they have trust funds and they're rich and or their families more than happy to bankroll their journey, but we didn't.
We did not grow up rich. Neither of us. And so that's why the financial diligence before entering it was really important to us, because I think both Jeff and I know what it's like to grow up in families where, you know, our parents are paycheck to paycheck struggling to put food on the table, you know. And so we didn't want that for ourselves. Our parents did the best that they could, and they did great. But, you know, we always want to elevate the experience for the next generation, right? So, we were very thoughtful about it. And, you know, to go to Brandy's question, I think there's a lot, you know, like if you make it a priority, you can make things happen. Right. And so, yes, we had to do a lot of saving. Yes, we had to do a lot of budget planning. But there are things like tapping into your 401k. There are things applying for a private loan, which is what we did. So it was not necessarily a lender that's specialized in supporting surrogacy journeys, but it's a lender, SoFi, plug to SoFi. This is not sponsored, but SoFi.
If you're listening, more than happy.
I know. Listen to the podcast. Yeah.
SoFi ended up being a lender that we stumbled upon and did research on, and we were able to apply for a private loan.
Yeah.
And that you could use, you know, some people use it to pay off their student loan. Some people use it to maybe make improvements to a home or something like that. We used it to pay for part of the surrogacy journey.
Okay. Can I interrupt you just real quick? Did you actually put that on the loan application?
No, you don't have to put
That's a great question.
Did you have to put that we need this?
How do people know what you do with your money? Yeah. Do they care? Would you care?
They probably didn't care, but yeah.
It's more about, obviously, your ability to pay it back, your credit score, and all of that.
Yeah.
History of taking money out and being able to pay it back. But they didn't get those details, as maybe, I think, if you walked into a bank and was, you know,
a bank,
they might ask, you know, what are you using this money for? But also, just to kind of, again, go back to Brandy's question, there are resources and organizations out there that will provide grants, or essentially to couples who are not in a financial position to pay for it or bankroll it on their own, but really want to experience the surrogacy journey. And so another shout out to menhavingbabies.com, which is menhavingbabies.org, which is a wonderful international resource for same-sex couples that are trying to have children.
That's great.
It's private donations that are helping to enable all families to build their family through this option, if that's what they want.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that's great.
Going back to the SoFi question earlier, it is a personal loan, so they didn't ask what you're using the money for. So it was more like a black and white sort of assessment of your ability to pay off the loan. There are, I know there are companies that do specialize in financing surrogacy journeys. We went with that particular financial institution because of the interest rate, and it made more financial sense for us.
Right.
The maximum that we could take out, was really enough to jumpstart the journey. I mean, I think for anyone also, we tell other couples that want to go through the surrogacy journey, you don't need that, there is a total cost to everything, but you don't need to have all of that in the beginning.
That's what I was wondering about your story. Did part of that go to the IVF and the surrogacy? Were you able to split that up? Okay.
Right.
The 100,000 or whatever loan.
Yeah,
did that cover?
I'd like to think about the cost. There's several big sort of chunks to it. There's the fee that you pay the fertility clinic is not, in our case, it's not covered by insurance, so it's out of pocket,
which is another really big topic.
We'll save that for another podcast. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So there's the medical clinic. There's the fees that you pay for the surrogate, for we call it the gestational carrier. That's another term used.
Can you say that one more time, just because it broke up?
Yeah, gestational carrier.
The gestational.
Yeah, in the.
Oh, that's so clinical.
Surrogacy. Yeah,
people need to know the language.
Or GCs, and then and then the insurance. We had to like pay for our gestational carriers or surrogates insurance. Some don't need, because some gestational carriers, if you're lucky, they're, if they're working and they have insurance, some insurance plans honor surrogacy. They do cover surrogacy, but ours didn't. So we had to get her sort of like a secondary plan to cover that, and then other costs along the way. So
how did you pick which was going to hold your baby? How did you pick the surrogate?
The surrogate, I mean, we should mention that our journey was a very difficult journey, and it took us 3 years, and everything that could have went wrong in our journey. And so, specific to how did we choose the surrogate, well, we actually had to go through 2 surrogates, because we worked with one surrogate for an entire year, and we could not get pregnant. The IVF well, not to go into too many details, but it just it wasn't medically compatible. And so we worked with her for a year. She was lovely. We had a great relationship, and but it just wasn't happening. And so after a year of time and financial commitment, we had to move on to another surrogate. And our second surrogate was able to get pregnant and deliver Margo. But I think the factors that we look into when we're picking a surrogate is, obviously a healthy lifestyle. There are technical things, successful previous births. There's a number of factors, right? What else do you want to mention in terms of the factors?
We found our surrogate through a surrogacy agency. So he did assist us in like finding and vetting and sort of like doing the pre-screening for the for gestational carriers. And so they both are gestational care surrogates that we worked with were recommended by agency. In particular, we went with Same Love Surrogacy.
So which is another cost component that you have to.
I was just thinking that.
They're kind of like a general contractor when you're remodeling a home. They kind of manage the whole.
They're experts.
The whole building and construction project, and they also have. They recruit surrogates and they match surrogates with parents.
Yeah, but they help facilitate a lot. Like sort of like, because we've never gone through the process, so they were helpful in sort of like giving us like guidance on the step by step.
Was it like a blind date when you guys met?
It is like online dating. When the egg donor, when choosing your egg donor and also selecting your surrogate. It is a little bit like online dating. With the surrogate specifically, the agency sends you a profile. You read the profile, they read your profile, and if both parties agree, then there's a meeting. And
that's right. They have to choose you too.
We have to.
No forced pregnancies. Yeah.
I'm really listening into this like newly. Like I'm really taking this in.
We have to build a healthy relationship and environment for the child to grow and be delivered healthy. And so a key to this is for all women who are carrying children is low stress, right? A happy and low stress environment is what we want to create. And that was important in establishing our relationship. So
plus I think, when we did our Skype, our interview, it was video, like through video. We didn't meet them in person.
Ever?
It was just getting, you're like interview each other. It's sort of like, I guess, virtual dating. You have to get a sense of what is this person like? I'm sure she's also kind of like sizing us up. Like, can I work with this couple? Can, will they like curse? Will they be like overly overbearing during the pregnancy? Will they micromanage everything, or will they give me enough sort of like trust? And, can I see myself working with this couple, let's say the next 9 months?
That's a good point.
Minimum 9 months.
Didn't
right?
think of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. With both our surrogates, after we spoke with them, we left with like, a good, like, yeah, I mean, I think, definitely I would trust her to, carry our child. And we see us having sort of like a good relationship even after the birth. Because we decided, like, with our child, with Margo, we want to be fully like transparent with her if she had any questions. As she gets older, like, who's the egg donor, who's the the lady who like helped give birth to me. We chose women who would be willing to, like answer those questions if, let's say, in the future Margo wants to meet and talk to them. Yeah. So.
Wow. That's all that to take into consideration.
Yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah.
So you didn't meet the surrogate until when did you actually like meet her in person?
When we
embryo
transfer. So after the embryos were created and the start of IVF, right?
So you got to go to the prenatal appointments and ultrasounds and all of Michigan.
Because when I talk about prenatal in this context, it's all encompassing with you guys. Yeah, we're gonna have enough conversations with prenatal, like, women. How is your belly? How's you feeling? No, this is like, how was your prenatal experience with the surrogacy and the emotions and the feelings? Because you guys are getting ready to be parents.
With our first surrogate, I guess the silver lining there is that we never got to a point where we were given the green light to transfer an embryo, and therefore we never lost any embryos with the first surrogate. Again, the uterine lining was just not getting to a level of thickness that our doctor felt was going to allow for a successful birth.
And so the doctor knew or had. Okay.
Yeah. So that
is a silver lining. Wow.
He was the one monitoring the whole situation.
I see.
The one saying, okay, yes, we can proceed and transfer an embryo. And so we moved, like I said, to the second surrogate. And actually, unfortunately, with that one, we experienced.
Well, it's not technically like a miscarriage. I guess like we had to do embryo transfer 3 times. With our second surrogate. The first attempt at embryo transfer, she had done like a urine pregnancy test at home, and a few days after transfer it turned out positive. So I think she told Friday, and so we were so excited, like, oh my gosh, we're finally, after like 2 years of trying, like, we're finally pregnant, only to learn the week after that it was a false positive. So she wasn't actually pregnant in the first attempt, and then the second attempt didn't also, the embryo also didn't implant. It took 3 times, and the third time finally.
Third time's a charm. Well, and yay science, right? Like, yay science.
Yes. Yeah. And then the news, the big news. What was it like with the big news when, ta-da, we're pregnant?
Well, I found out first. I was at work, and we knew the news was coming that day, any moment, because they tell you 5 days later after transfer, you would do like a blood test to confirm pregnancy. All day, I was just like waiting. The phone was like just waiting for any, like, a text or call or anything. And I was in the middle of a meeting, and my team knew that I was waiting for the news. When my phone rang, I just went, they know, oh, go. They knew what it was about. And so I went into my office, and my heart was racing, and, because I don't know, like I'm bracing myself for whatever news, because this is the third time and then our doctor, shout out to Dr. Danishman at San Diego Fertility Center. He went on FaceTime and gave me the news. It was certainly like a celebratory day. And then of course I told Mark right away.
Yeah, but I will say that I was on pins and needles until we were able to get Margo home. I just knew I needed to brace myself for just everything that, could possibly be thrown our way. And so I don't think I really exhaled until we got Margo home. And fast forward, I mean, Brandy, you know this, Margo was born premature. She spent 30 days in the NICU. It was, again, our story, looking back on it now, was such a, like, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. But it's worth it.
Right.
But were you guys prepared for NICU?
No, not at all.
See, I wasn't either.
There was no indication that our second surrogate would deliver prematurely. And then here comes Margo, and
2 months early.
2 months early. She's in the NICU for 30 days. But I was in San Diego, so I will also share, and talk about like the universe really, or in our situation, God really kind of watching out for us. Our surrogate delivered Margo on a Monday. She was checked out on Wednesday. And then Friday, she got in a really bad car accident on the freeway. Her car actually flipped upside down and she was rushed back into the hospital. So there was no expectation that this baby was going to come early. But, that car accident.
No major injuries, but the thought.
She was supposed to be pregnant. She was supposed to be
7 months pregnant.
34. Mm-hmm. She was supposed to be 34 weeks that Saturday.
Yeah, and I don't know what would have happened if that accident happened while she was pregnant. So, then it made sense. Like, that's why. I mean, that's how we're taking it. Margo came out sooner than we expected, is because, it was maybe just protecting her.
Mm-hmm.
That's the empowering context.
So, and Margo's good now? Like, no.
She's in daycare, preschool, completely caught up and thriving.
And how's postpartum for you guys in the first couple of weeks, months, even to this day, as fathers, as new daddies?
The 30 days, though, in the NICU, and mind you, it was like in the middle of the first several months of the pandemic of COVID.
Oh, my God.
Okay, so when was Margo born? Let's put that in. Hello. That's a big part of it. I forgot. Yes.
Born August 2020.
2020.
Before vaccinations. Before.
Oh, yeah, with panda babies. Yeah. Yeah.
We got the call that our surrogate's water broke, and so we rushed down to San Diego that evening. She was, starting to dilate, and we were being given updates, and we were worried that we wouldn't be around for the delivery, because at that time, the hospital had like rules that your companion going into the hospital will be your companion for the rest of your hospital stay. So we had to like appeal to the nursing staff, and they were considerate of the situation, knowing, so they allowed one of us, they had to go through the chain of command, and they made an exception. So I ended up going into the delivery room. I probably got there maybe 20 minutes before Margo was born. The hospital finally allowed a switch of companions. We had to wait at the lobby, wait for our surrogate's partner to exit the lobby, and then I switched in for him. And they were very nice. I was escorted to the delivery room, and it was definitely one of the most memorable moments. But we were both allowed in the NICU. And to your point, your original question about postpartum, it was a blessing, to be able to at least even like learn a lot in that 30 days of Margo being in the NICU. The nurses were amazing. Shout out to the nurses at Mary Birch, the perfect place, I think, for Margo to be born in. I'm a physician, but I'm not a pediatrician, so I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm a geriatrician. I take care of, I guess, other people in diapers. Yeah, so they were instrumental, like what to watch out for, how to feed the baby, how to bathe the baby, how to swaddle. It was a lot of hands-on, I think, which we would never have gotten if Margo was born full term. And after a couple of days, then we're like, okay, here's your baby. Figure this.
Yeah.
While she was in NICU, for you guys to really take in, okay, now that we can settle down, now she's in NICU, this is what we're going to do while she's in NICU to be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how was that for you guys?
It was so complicated. Oh, I get emotional thinking about it. She was so little. She was 4.6 ounces. And she had wires all tied up in her and
incubator.
And
I understand.
And so.
Yeah, I get it. You're emotional because you see your baby with wires and in this little incubator, and I understand.
And so, we're based in LA, and like Jeff mentioned, Margo was born in a hospital in San Diego. I had started my paternity leave, and Jeff had to go back to work, right? And so we went home, but I really couldn't exhale just yet, because what ended up happening is I drove down to San Diego every day and then drove back home to LA at night.
Wow.
For how long?
About a week. And then I started my leave.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so it was, it felt like longer than a week. Are you sure it was just a week?
Yeah.
Okay. But, yes, I would drive.
Time and space is all. Yeah.
But I was just on an adrenaline rush. Shout out to the NICU and the people at the NICU, and but I would get there in the morning, and I was their little apprentice intern, and I was like, all right, I'm here. What should I do? And they would put me to work, right? Like I would have to change the not only the diaper, but the wires and take her temperature, swaddle and nurse and bathe. And I would stay there all day. And then I would drive home at night, and then I would report back to Jeff how it went and what we learned and what we're seeing. And I mean, there were times in the NICU where she would stop breathing, and then all the alarms are going off, and I mean, and then I'm trying to feed her, and then she stops breathing, or she's throwing up, and it was just
really intense.
It was really intense. We couldn't, and then Jeff started his leave, and then we were based down there for the week. It was so when we got her home, even though she was super tiny, we had been through that the boot camp of being in the NICU, and being at home, I was able to finally breathe. And it's funny because my mom and my dad were they're about an hour away from us, and so they were, they were the family members that saw Margo when she came home. And my mom had 3 boys, right? You would think she's very accustomed to baby, but both of them were very kind of like nervous at how small she was. And the whole time we're like, doesn't she look great? She's like 5 pounds now. And they were like,
compared to what when she was.
But she at 4.5, and I was just like, she's so big now and she's growing. And so we were able to finally breathe once we got her home, and she was somewhat.
Yeah. Because I think the first few weeks,
but nothing near what it was like.
Right. In the NICU, but the sort of like the physician side of me, like, was like, well, I had her like on a little, like, we had this Bluetooth pulse oximeter to monitor her oxygen.
Of course, yes.
Continuously. There was like this little like sock, like, that monitors her oxygen 24/7.
Yeah.
Did that drive you nuts, Mark? Or you're like, oh, I'm glad my husband knows how to take care of that?
I was glad, because I was worried she would stop breathing too.
Yeah. So we had.
I still worry. I have a 12-year-old. I still worry about her stopping breathing. routinely walk into her room while she's sleeping and be like, she's still breathing.
I know. Never ends though.
Doesn't
Never
it?
ends.
So
So it was good because it was this device that, you know, like it will alert you, go to your phone also for oxygen dips. It, you know, it had the light on that just sat next to me at my bedside table. And I, you know, in the middle of the night, I would just open my eyes, you know, as long as it's blinking, okay, we're good. Yeah. It's freaking.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So that gave us some level of sort of like peace of mind, security. Any parent, first time parent, I'm sure will attest the first few months of, you know, like scheduled nursing and sleepless nights and, you know, just worrying, what is this? Well, you know, she's gassy. Why is she crying? Is she tolerating the feeding? Like, a lot of these, like, you know, you can try to read as much as you can, but, you know, nothing
exactly
for the day to day.
Yeah.
And it's just great to hear from the horse's mouth from people that are experiencing things. Because my vision for this was, you know, we're late at night feeding our babies, watching maybe this video podcast or listening, right? I don't know how you listen to headphones without the baby listening, but you know, because you watch things at night, you read the subtitles. That's what I did. But just to have this access for people to be like, oh, I want to watch this couple, this family that made their family this way, and this is what I want to do, or this is what I want to learn about. So having you share the stories is great. So for me, I know personally, sharing with Mark, like you experienced some postpartum. I don't know if you would say it was a postpartum baby blues, postpartum depression. I had my experience of postpartum depression coming later, along with my first with Sebastian. Can you share a little bit how emotionally postpartum, and I say this in all contexts because you have the baby. This is your baby. You're the ones that are now raising, having 24/7, the emotional toll or whatnot. Can you share a little bit about that? And I know from Mark sharing, but also Jeff, if you wanted to share some of that too. Like, how was it then and how is it now?
How was it then? I think the first few months were, you know, different because in the sense, like Mark, you know, like Mark took on the brunt of baby care. Because he was at home. He had 6 months of parental leave. I wish I had it.
Wow.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow,
good
that
for
is
your
amazing.
company. Good for your company, Mark. Right?
And that was for both women and men.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is crazy to still see the what is the word? Like, just the difference that companies are offering women versus men. I mean, and also just to how little time they're giving to both women and men. But yes, this company was giving almost 6 months to both women and men. And Jeff, you got what, 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. 2 weeks is 2 weeks for paternity leave is standard in California.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I had the time to really be at home and take on the whole care. You know.
Yeah, but it was exhausting. You know, like Mark, you know, was exhausted and understandably, and each day bleeds into, it's almost like the same thing day in and that. Mark is a very outgoing, dynamic guy, as you know, Brandy, like, you know, like, but having that day to day become, I mean, I would say, like, I guess monotonous and very the same, you know, takes a toll on your mental well-being, you know?
Because there's no like kind of books that say, oh, your life is totally going to transition, not from a single person to a parent, but like who you were, your identity before you were a parent.
Yeah. And, you know, and also how the relationship between the couple changes. Like, even to this day, or even now, Margo's a little over 2 years, and I'm like, oh, I miss my partner still. You know, I miss, like, because we used to be able to go and do everything together. Now sometimes, like, we have to do a lot of it separately for efficiency reasons, right? Because Margo stays at home, one has to stay at home, and the other one goes and runs errands. And I miss, you know, going to Target with my partner and just like spending hours going up and down
roaming every aisle. I know. Every single, even the aisle you don't need to be in, you just get to get in.
Yeah. And it's not even just about, like, I mean, date night. I miss date night and being able, but just like, again, like being able to to just spend the whole day with your partner. And yes, Margo's getting older now, so we're able to do things together as a family. You know, when the baby's little, it's like you're basically chained to the house, right? And so
yeah, and we made the decision for us to do some sort of sleep training with Margo. So we really try to really stick to this program, which you know, it's not for everybody, but for us, that's what we decided to do.
I think that's great because I did that. Brian and I decided to do that too, and it took a while. I had an intervention. I'll share my story eventually. But I had an intervention of sleep. People are like, you need to sleep. Sleep deprivation, again, not very talked about a lot. Like, oh, it's like common. You're never gonna sleep for the rest of your life. Yeah. Great, ha ha ha. No, like medically, you know, Jeff, like it's not healthy. Not healthy.
Yeah, that's insane.
Right. So around 5 months when Margo started sleeping through the night, that was like night, and they're like, oh my gosh, we can actually like get back to like normal sleep schedule for us now. It's night and day. Like you know, like, you can function more clearly during the day.
But I do feel like even now, like at least for me, like sleep will never be the same.
It's never,
right? But as they get into the years, and I'm like, did she sneak out of the house? Or like,
is that like a stress? No sleep? It's more like worry and no sleep.
Right. Well, but it is. It's and you sleep more lightly as a parent. Yeah. That's what I've noticed. Is like I don't sleep as deeply as I used to, like I did before. Just because like you hear everything.
You hear.
Like, oh, wait, what was that?
Well, well, now being a parent, oh my God, if my parents listen to this podcast, I'm like, no wonder my stepdad said he could hear everything. Because when I snuck out, he was probably worried about it.
Yeah.
As a parent, I'm like, yeah, he was definitely worried about it. No wonder you as a parent, you could never sleep ever.
Never.
Yep.
So, never. Oh my gosh. Flo, do you have anything else? I mean, we're going to start wrapping it up, but I mean, of course, I want you guys to have the freedom to share anything too that you want to share with our listeners and viewers.
I'm just really grateful. I mean, that for me, that's the thing. It's like, I'm super grateful that you guys decided to have shared your story multiple times and are willing to be open to share how Margo came to be. And, I wish I could see her, but we'll get there at some point. But it's just,
cool.
It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's lovely. I'm excited. Are you so you've got embryos. I'm assuming you have some left out there in the world. Yeah. And so you have decisions to make about that too. Like what's going to happen to those potential humans?
We have only one left.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I didn't ask that. I forgot. I mean, so the age-old question, are you guys going to have another or try another for that last embryo?
We
would love to. We would love to if money wasn't an issue, right? Again, going back to the point that we were talking about, like just to get the baby. I mean, our journey we're really transparent. It was about total 180,
almost 200,
almost $200,000. Yeah, that's what I remember from reading. It was like 160 or something, just out the box. So. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, I heard the story and I'm still like, again, I got, emotional just hearing it again. And I hope that part of this too is a process of continuing, what's the word? An ongoing process of healing and acknowledging what amazing human beings you guys are. And just a healing as parents that we always need that reassurance of like, you got this. And the process that it took to get here. I hope that's also what this talking like this could provide too.
Yes. You thank you for saying that, Flo and Brandy. And to me, Brandy, that really resonates what you said, because the interest in our story and the emotional response that both of you are giving us right now, I think it makes us feel so welcomed in this world, in this community, right?
Oh my God. I started tearing up. And then
every time. Oh my God.
That's hysterical.
I'm totally keeping this in the
Oh yeah. That's awesome. Oh, that's funny.
It like knows like when we're getting.
I swear, yeah, no, but I absolutely believe that there's a
oh
a
my
piece.
God, you guys!
I know.
That's so
It's
funny.
like right when we're like getting.
Oh, it's like, oh, yeah.
I really want to say that I just feel so welcomed by the community of parents that are out there, and I'm so hopeful that Margo will live an excellent life and thrive, and it's because of people like you who are interested and support and care and really see the love that that permeates in our family and other unique family situations, right? And so we're going through some really different times in the world.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
The kind of moments remind me we are much more similar than we are different, right?
100%. Yeah.
We're all just here to love and be our best selves and create a world that our children can be our best selves. And so I'm very touched with this project, and I'm very touched that you guys are so interested. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Like I said, and in our sharing, that's why we're very open and excited to share our story, because we know, we stand on the shoulders of other people also who've gone before us and have shared their stories and how they serve as a some comfort and feeling of support that we can get through this, all the ups and downs, and and forward. So in any way that we can pay it forward for any other couple or people, even if you're a single person who wants to go through the surrogacy process,
an inner couple, any same-sex couple,
right, like that, if you decide to grow your family and welcome a child into your family, whatever means you go through surrogacy, adoption, whatever, that this decision of raising a child and bringing a child into your family, is really born out of love. And anything that's born out of love and really rooted in that can only result in good. And I think one of the things going even like to bring it full circle, when we first decided to have Margo, is one of the considerations was in the theme of what Mark said was legacy, is that, well, if we have the capacity to bring into this world a person who can serve as a force for good in any way, small or big, then we've done our job. I think that's really important for us. That's why we were always welcome the opportunity to just share the story. So it may inspire other people, or at least people who are actually in this journey right now can hear that it may not be a smooth journey like ours, but in the end, hopefully you can experience the joy and also the ups and downs of parenting, but all the good things that it brings into your life.
All the good. Yes.
All the good.
Yeah.
All the good.
You guys, thank you so much for sharing your delivery diary.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's really a privilege. It's an honor.
More power and success to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.